What if you were told today that 10 years from now you're going to suffer from a massive heart attack or a bad stroke, or you're going to be diagnosed with cancer, or you're going to come down with early onset dementia, or your liver is going to fail and you're going to need to be put on a transplant list? What if you were given such diagnoses 10 years ahead of time? But then what if after you got this prediction, you were told that there were things you can do starting today that will cancel out the chance of these diseases happening 10 years from now? Would you want to know what are some of the signs, early warning signs that predict awful diseases in the future? What if even in advance of these early warning signs, there was a signal, like a meter reading that we could take to give us an idea of whether or not any of these awful medical problems will happen to you in the future? Would you want to know about those? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. Early warning signs of severe diseases in the future, and also a signal reading that you can have done even before some of these early warning signs come about. Okay, before we get into it, I'm Dr. Amina Goodwin, a physician and a health coach, and I help you to get your blood sugar levels down to normal where they belong without taking more medicines. And you want to get your blood sugar levels normal so that you can have great energy throughout the day, so that you can avoid food cravings and therefore control your weight, especially as you grow older, and so that you can live a longer, overall much healthier life. All right, let's get into it. Early warning signs of future disease, and then we're going to talk about a meter reading that can be taken to predict disease in the future, right? What are some of the early warning signs that we can see, right? Some of them you can check for yourself. Some of the others, a doctor maybe needs to help you with that evaluation. What are some of these, right? We're going to go through 5 of them. One of them is related to size. Now, we tend to focus a lot on weight and body mass index, and sort of looking for the body mass index to be less than 25. But the fact is, a lot of people will have a normal body mass index, but a more serious issue is the waist size, the size of the waist, right? So in the average man, the waist circumference should be no more than 40 inches. And in the average woman, the waist circumference should be no more than 35 inches. Now, I say average because there's some variations depending on race and so on, and you can look that up if it's relevant to you. But generally speaking, the more above 40 inches for a man, or the more above 35 inches for a woman that the waist circumference is, the more likely it is that you have excess fat squeezing your organs, excess fat in the belly and in the liver and in the organs in those areas, right? And that type of fat negatively, right, it hurts the way your body processes energy, and it increases your chance for inflammation and disease in the future. So that's one of the early warning signals. Instead of just focusing everything on the amount, the number on the scale, you need to look at your waist circumference, right? Second warning sign is blood pressure. Now, before the pandemonium of the past 3 or so years, it was easy to just go in a pharmacy and get blood pressure checked. Unfortunately, it's not so easy anymore, and many people, if they don't have their own blood pressure machine, have to wait until they go to the doctor or something to get their blood pressure checked. Generally speaking, blood pressure should be, well, the normal blood pressure classically is 120 over 80, but when your blood pressure increases and is more than 130 over 85, that's another warning signal that things are not too good in the body. The kidneys might be retaining too much fluid, too much water. There might be a bit of inflammation within the blood vessels, causing them to be stiff, and when blood vessels are stiff, they cannot relax for the blood to flow through, and that results in a high blood pressure. So a high blood pressure greater than 130 over 85 is an indication that things might not be going too well, and there is trouble ahead in the future. Another early warning signal, this one is a blood test, which you would probably have to get your doctor to do, or you can go to a lab. Nowadays, it's easy to go to a lab and get blood testing done, specifically the fasting blood sugar. So after an overnight fast of about 8 hours, your blood sugar should be no more than 100. So if your blood sugar is more than 100, that it signifies that your body's struggling a bit, and the hormone that's responsible for shuttling sugar or glucose into your cells, it is having a hard time doing its job. We call that insulin resistance. And for that reason, the blood sugar levels are creeping up. And so if your fasting blood sugar level is more than 100, that is an indication of problems in the future. The fourth signal is is another blood test, high blood triglyceride levels. So triglycerides are a type of cholesterol, type of fat in the blood, and triglycerides essentially are what? The sugar, excess sugar in your blood. So we spoke about the high blood sugar, but if sugar stays high, and it means that it has to be changed, like eventually it has to be converted to something, and so extra sugar gets converted to triglycerides. And if there's excess triglycerides, you're getting that stored in your liver and in the belly and fat around the organs and so on. But if you have a lot of triglycerides, it means that it's going to back out into the blood and it's going to show up as high triglyceride levels. High triglyceride levels greater than 150, that's abnormal and an indication of future trouble, future problems, right? And then the last one is another type of cholesterol, another blood test, that is HDL. That's a good type of cholesterol that helps overall, calm down inflammation and so on. And if the HDL level in men is less than 40, and if in women the HDL level is less than 50, then that's an indication again that there is trouble brewing. The body's having a hard time with how it manages energy, stores energy, and so on. And it is a signal of future problems. Now, some of you might recognize these 5 signals and signs that I mentioned as all features of the metabolic syndrome. The metabolic syndrome is an indication of the body not being able to handle energy efficiently. The more of these signs you have, the greater your problems going forward, okay? So classically, 3 out of 5, 2 to 3 out of these 5 features is a strong indication that there's problems down the road in terms of the medical issues, the heart attack, the stroke, and so on that I mentioned, right? Now, what if I told you that even before these 5 early warning signs, there is a signal that we could pick up, we could detect, we could measure? There's a meter reading we could get that tells us, oh, these problems, the high cholesterol, the high fasting blood sugar, the high waist circumference, watch out, these things are on their way slowly but surely, right? There's a signal, and this one is not very common, right? This meter reading is a very uncommon reading that is assessed at the doctor's office, right? And this meter reading is essentially blood insulin level, specifically a fasting blood insulin level. Now, with metabolic syndrome, which essentially is an indication of insulin resistance, I alluded to that before, there is so much sugar coming on board, either from sugar that you drink, eat, or from starch that breaks right down to sugar, or if for some reason, usually because of excess stress, you are making a lot of sugar in your body. Your body's making too much sugar. So lots of sugar means that eventually the body is bombarded. It has enough sugar. There's nowhere for this extra sugar to go. So it lurks around in the blood. Also, if you've had lots of sugar for a long period of time, insulin gets to a point where it just doesn't work well anymore. And so it's not able to do the job of shuttling the sugar into the cells. So either there's too much sugar, so there's extra, or the sugar that's there cannot be shuttled into the cells because insulin isn't working anymore. And so the body, because sugar is high, it's still producing insulin because it's wondering, well, why the job isn't being done. So clearly there's not enough insulin. So the pancreas just puts out more and more insulin, and it compounds the problem of insulin resistance, right? And how you detect that is in the morning, fasting insulin should be, the lab will say, some labs will, I've seen normal readings up to 20. I've seen normal ranges of 10 to 20. I've seen 5 to 10. Essentially, in the fasting state, your insulin should be under 5, okay? Because why do you need all this insulin if you're not eating, right? Usually you have spurts of insulin when you eat your food, and it goes up to shuttle the nutrients from your food into the cells. But after you've stopped eating, certainly 8 hours, after an 8-hour fast, your insulin level should be less than 5. And if you have this meter reading done in fasting insulin level and it's more than 5 or it's more than 10, the higher above 5 to 10 this reading is, the more likely you are to have a problem, okay? And knowing that you have a high fasting insulin level tells you that you have a problem taking care of sugar, right? And whether it be that you're taking in too much sugar or you're making too much sugar, it gives you an instant indication that you have a problem. You therefore have the ability to do something about this problem. How do you decrease insulin in your blood? The only way to decrease insulin is to decrease the amount, basically to decrease the need for it, which is to decrease the amount of sugar going into your bloodstream. So you decrease how much you're eating, or you manage stress so that you're making less sugar, right? If you have less sugar into your blood, you're needing less insulin, and things can gradually improve. Your body gradually improves its response to insulin, and your risk for these awful diseases go down. How do you decrease your blood sugar levels? Well, I like to talk about the BEAM. I have the BEAM framework, BEAM, B-E-A-M. So you can burn more sugar. So it means you use it up before it gets to build up in your blood. You can eat less sugar, right? You can absorb or soak in less sugar, meaning that you're eating your sugar with things like with things like fiber and protein and fat, which will slow down the absorption of sugar. Or you can make less sugar. That means having less stress and finding ways to manage your stress, or taking less or no medications that increase blood sugar levels, because some medications can actually increase some medications can cause you to make more sugar, right? So essentially, BEAM, to decrease your blood sugar levels, you need to beam those levels down. You burn less sugar, you eat less sugar, you absorb less sugar, or you make less sugar. Once your levels of sugar come down and stay down for a few weeks, insulin can now start working efficiently, right? And so you don't need as much insulin, and your insulin levels, because you don't need as much, they are able to stay down, especially in the fasting state. The inflammation in your body is able to go away. Your body is able to process energy efficiently. Your cells are getting the nourishment that they need, rather than the nourishment just floating around in your blood. And overall, your body heals, and you can live a nice, long, healthy life. So I hope you all found this helpful. Go and schedule a checkup. This person, like I said, who came with this awful heart attack, they happened to be diagnosed with diabetes for the first time. The A1C level was more than 13%, so really a bad sugar problem. Cholesterol was high, blood pressure was high, and also there was heart failure. Okay, so very serious problem. Young person, in the middle-aged person with a young family, and all this could have been avoided had they detected some early warning signs, and even before that, had this meter reading of a fasting blood insulin level, right? Don't let that be you. Schedule an appointment with your doctor today, and in the meantime, try to eat in a wholesome, healthier way, and minimize the processed artificial foods that are so common nowadays. I hope you all found this video helpful, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.